Good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you may be, or good evening, or good night. This is Jen at JensArtyInclinations, a place to create, share, and play.
Hello everyone. Today I'm actually doing something a bit different. I'm doing an art journal page. So just a double spread in my new little art journal I made for myself, and I'm trying out some techniques that, some I've done before, some I haven't. But I wanted to, do some of those groovy things other people seem to manage to do and just play. So I hope you'll enjoy playing along with me. All I'm starting out with is just a few drops of paint that I'm then spreading out with a plastic palette knife. And then I thought, I love a bit of pink, so I'm spreading out a bit of pink. Now, I started using the palette knife, but then I grabbed my sponge, which you'll see in a sec, and I actually found that was better for this particular technique. But a lot of it is just feeling as I go, working it out. There's no real rhyme or reason to this one today, folks. So, I had a lot of fun though. I just kind of kept adding. There is a point pretty soon where I could have easily just left it at that, but I really enjoyed just exploring more and more things. So here I just did a little bit of inking through that stencil, just to, get a bit of an idea of that. What did I do next? Oh, yeah, black gesso. So this was, what do you call it? When you die cut out things on your die cut machine, this is the shape that was left over from that. And I went, oh, that's a good stencil. I'll keep that one. So I think a lot of people do that. I'm just only doing it recently because I haven't long had a die cutting machine. Anywho, I used some black gesso and some pink paint, and I love how this butterfly turned out. This isn't how it ended up in the end, by the way. However, I really like that, so I'm going to do that more. Just that blotchiness that you get rather than just the one colour on the stencil. It's all a bit cool. All right, so next I wanted to play with some moulding paste on a stencil, so I just added some pink paint in it. I don't know if you're supposed to add that to moulding paste, but I did. And then I blended that with just a bit of plain white. So, again, that was nice, just not all the same colour in the one stencil. This sort of stuff, I don't know, I just love it. It's messy, it's fun. Sometimes you don't want to get this messy, you just want to do something quick and simple. But yeah, I love playing with the paint and adding in some collage and all sorts of things. And it's really fun doing this in a book that I've actually made. So this is one that I did where the cover is a paper bag cover and the pages inside, they're just some craft pages from, a normal paper pad. But just, already that gives it a bit of a different kind of background to play with. So, yeah, it's nice. It's fun. Now, I did a lot of drawing in between layers on this because, I couldn't wait. I wanted to do it all in the one session. So even though this video, I think it's about 20 minutes long, it probably took me about an hour and a half all up. So, there's a little bit sped up. There's lots of that thinking time where I'm or where I'm faffing, putting that down, taking that up, putting that down, taking that up, which I have spared you from. So, so even though this may be really boring to watch all this through, it could have been worse. Alrighty, so this is just a strip of book page, and I tore a few bits off because, I can't do any work without having a book page. I mean, I think that's really, really hard. That's a big ask. That's a lovely strip of paper that I had. It's got like a, like a linen texture on it. Oh, now, these are actual dried flowers. So they're little violets. So I hadn't used them yet, and I thought, well, even though it's in the corner, nobody will really notice it much, I'm going to use one of those in this big painty piece of art journal-y thing that I'm doing. And then this is what I loved. I did some jelly prints recently. I've got a video where I've, just showed you through some of the ones that I did because I needed some more painty papers. And now I'm just tearing them up and using them in this, which I really love. So I think this one was on newsprint, or it might have been on graph paper. And that just yeah, I don't know. It's nice. It's obviously got texture on its own, but it's nice that it's something that you've created, that you're putting in there as well. It's pretty special, and especially when you're tearing it up, you don't want to tear up your lovely, digitals or your lovely, scrapbook papers all the time because they feel a bit more precious. So I love doing jelly prints for this kind of thing. So there's another jelly print. I thought, needs a bit of a pick-me-up colour. So bit of that, bright green. It's almost a fluoro green. Love it. So popping that in there. And now really, this is where I just start playing. The back of that bright pink and green piece was on graph paper, so I understand it's hard to see on the camera there, but that's what I'm putting down there on the other side, just to get a bit of different texture, a little bit of contrast. Contrast is good. And I just had a cat jump right up at my head. They're hilarious cats. They love scaring you. Alrighty, another bit of my jelly prints. Love using gold. It's funny. When I'm wearing jewellery and when I'm buying jewellery, I generally wear silver. And when I'm painting and creating, I generally use gold. What's that all about? I'm an enigma wrapped in a riddle. Alrighty, so just a little strip of gold down the side there, but don't worry, some more gold comes in later. So I love how this one turned out. So again, that was a jelly print, but it was one of those layered ones that I did where I did a stencil with some blue, and the stencil was, the script, the writing, and then I layered on the top with the gold, or I might have put the gold, anyway. However I did it, it looked really cool, and it has like blue writing under the gold. So, okay, so what I've done here is I've got out my inks. I've got some of those spray oxides, and I'm just using one of those little stamp acrylic blocks, using that as a little palette. So I'm, pretty new to using this technique. I think I first saw it over at Lee's Art Studio, but gee, it's a wonderful little tool. It's really cool. So I'm using that all the time now. And yeah, these are just the spray oxides. I've added some water. With this one, you can see I'm just flicking it straight from the bottle. I decided it needed a bit more contrast. It was all kind of blending into itself. So, sploshing and dabbing. And I've even got, this ink, again, hard to see in the video, but it actually is really translucent. And then the blue that I used, that's not translucent, but it works out really well, and it's spread absolutely beautifully. So I was really surprised. The only bit was I'm not so sure about the lovely big almost perfect circle below the butterfly, and that does stay till the end. However, I think it works in the end. So now time to use my gesso. Of course I'm going to use my white gesso at some point. I always love using my white gesso. We all know that now, don't we? Gesso and ink, that's, what I do a lot of. I think it's not really sure if that's working. Let me just try and disguise it with some gesso and ink. All right, so here I'm just using the black gesso again. I like using the black gesso oftentimes in place of black paint because you get that really nice matte finish, and I like the matte finishes. So, this does have some gloss in it with the gold, but it's really nice when it's contrasted against those matte backgrounds. Now, that is a lid, was the big black circles, and then that was just a little tube I had, and it was actually a tube off the top of one of my thick paint brushes that was holding the bristles, and it seemed perfect, so I kept it, and I use it all the time for little circles. So here I'm just adding some texture, and a lot of this is going to get covered up. I think that's the thing with art journals, is sometimes you're just adding texture that builds layers and it kind of creates itself. It's all about the playing with this. So again, drawing in between the layers, and what did I do? Oh yeah, stuck down a little butterfly. So here's some of my collaging pieces, because I've got to have a bit of a play with some more paper and glue. And you can see I got black gesso all over my glue, but, it's on the back, it's all fine. It's all about the messiness, this. So it's all good. But yeah, that was a little, ticket on a light page. Here are some fussy cut flowers. Just kept sort of adding a few bits and bobs just to give it a lift. Deciding which butterfly to use here because, I have, some butterflies. 1, 2, 3 butterflies, I think, at this point. So I'm adding the 4th. So just close your eyes because I'm ripping his wing off. I promise I don't do that to real ones. So here's a little label. Now this label was a little certified stamp label, but it's not a, what do you call it? And it's not an original, it's just a facsimile. So it still looks so effective. I'm trying to remember that to copy my stuff. Here I just put the edge of the block into the black gesso and I added some lines. And I'm doing it all quite gingerly at this point. I get a bit more bold in a minute. So it's kind of how it works, right? So, I enjoyed this so much and I really like the little book that I made up. I'm actually going to challenge myself to try and get one of these done each week. So you may get to see more of Jen mucking things up and then bringing them back and then mucking them up again and then faffing some more and then kind of ending up with something that sort of looks like a finished page. So sounds like JB is agreeing with me in the background there. Look, this, by the way, is so easy. Just grab a piece of card that you have lying around from anywhere and then you just scrape the paint down. Here I just watered down some paint and I'm doing some splatters. So I started out, I think, with just white and then I started out with yellow and then I added some white to the yellow and look, Anyway, watered down some paint and did some splatters. And then I thought, I know, I'm going to do these great lines over this. And then I looked at that and I went, no, I don't like that. It's just a mess. But when I just pulled it back, it worked fine. So, a lot of that when we're doing our art journals, isn't it? Where sometimes it's boldly trying something, you can always cover it over. I love little checkerboard bits, like little checks. I just find, for some reason, my mind and my eye really likes looking at crisscrosses. Crisscross. So I'm pretty close to finished here, believe it or not, and yet there's still, a bit to go through. So here I decided that I'd add this bit of a flower thing, and I did a few painty bits around the edges of the petals just to kind of help it, blend in. It was just fun, really. It looked too pristine as a clean piece against the background, basically. So now I'm starting to finesse. Do you like that? Did you see what I did there? Finesse, not faffing and fussing. It's finessing. That's what it is. All right, so here, look, I am literally just playing at this point. I've got my fingers in because they're my favourite tool. I decided that I needed something to pop a bit. So I grabbed my butterfly and I decided initially that I would try and make it bold with black, and then I do change my mind, even though, look, I love how this turned out. You'll see it in a minute. So I've got the black and then I add a bit more pink just to pick that up as well. And I do really, really like it. However, it's still just part of the rest of the piece. So I did decide that it needed a bit more of a pop in the end. But isn't it cool? Like, I must take a photo of that, I think, and actually print it out, because that, ripped around the edges would be kind of fabulous in, a junk journal, like just the edge of a wing on a page in a background or something like that, just thinking out loud. You might completely disagree with me. So this is what I ended up doing. I decided that could be a gold pop that was in the middle of the piece. And I made sure that I did this with my fingers so it has a bit of texture as well. And that's quite nice. It's a sheen. It's not a real glossy gold, even though it looks glossy on the camera. It's more of a sheen. So when I lift my finger, I do get a really nice texture in the gold, which just adds to it. Plus, you can also see a little bit of what happened before, where the butterfly came from. So I think that that really helps as well. So there you go. That's all I can tell you about my gold butterfly. Adding a little bit here and there just to balance it now. So now it's all about balancing and bringing it all together. But look at those amazing layers. Like, I've seen other people do this, really, really professionally and cleverly. But I'm just amazed at how you can do that just by continually playing and adding and not being too fussy about where things land, and you're thinking a little bit about it, but you're not thinking too much. So I'll be interested to see how my pages turn out at the end of this. If I challenge myself, even just to do half a dozen, one each week for just half a dozen weeks, that, would probably help, because oftentimes what we do at the beginning changes. So for instance, there was this guy who challenged himself to draw something every single day. And then, he challenged himself to draw people every single day for a year. And his drawings at the beginning of the year, they looked good, but by the end of the year, they were so evolved, simply because you get practiced and your art continues. And I think that's what happens with junk journals as well. You don't actually have to do them perfectly. If you just start and you just do a little bit each day, then it's amazing how it comes out at the end. So my intention is to do some art pages regularly, once a week, so that then I can get better at creating these techniques. And these sorts of things, if I take photographs of them, they're fantastic backgrounds for journals. Then I can just print out as many as I need, and if you put a ruled page in the beginning of that, then you've got this background behind it, which is interesting, completely unique, something that only you have made. So what am I doing here? Now this, believe it or not, those few lines there, sorry about the camera wobble, those few lines there that I just did with, what am I doing? That's one of those fold back clips. To me, that just started to balance it all out. And then this was just a bit of rubber that I found on the floor. I don't know what it's from, but it had those little, that little texture bit in it. So it was perfect for just adding a little bit of this pop of blue. It's sort of like a lovely dark aqua blue colour. Gorgeous, really. So putting a little bit of that around, and here I'm starting to sort of sit back, have a bit of a look at things from a distance, having a think. I know that I'm almost finished. I'm just not quite there yet in my head. Adding a bit of balance, a bit of blue on the edges. It's funny, it doesn't seem like a lot, but those little touches that I keep doing on the edges, they do just add to the frame of the piece, and they did make a difference in the end of it. So, yeah, blobbing about here, blobbing about there. I hope everybody's been well. Sorry I was sort of away for a bit there. So I really enjoyed doing this piece. I'm just adding the final touches here. It's kind of hard to see in the light, but you'll see in a moment in some of the stills. So it's got the focal point of the butterfly, the flower, and those circles. That kind of gives the eye a bit of a triangle to look around. And, yeah, in the end it works. But, this is just the first one in this book. So we'll see if I evolve. We'll see if I get worse. I'm sure I will. And I really hope you enjoyed playing along today. I will see you again next time. Again, welcome to all my new subscribers, and welcome back to everybody else. I'd love it if you could leave me a comment below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed what you saw today. And of course, please subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you next time. And in the meantime, keep creating. Enjoy!